Hey, folks. Today's episode sponsored by Naked Wines. What is Naked Wines? Well, have you ever walked into a wine store and been like, I have no idea what wine to get?
Mm-hmm.
And then you say something to the person at the counter, and then you're not sure if they're steering you in the right direction. And then all of a sudden, it's incredibly expensive. You don't know where to start. Well, stop buying wine like it's 2005 because it's 2025. Naked Wines is a service that directly connects you to the world's finest independent winemakers so you can get award-winning wine delivered straight to your door. Use our code MAJORITY for the code and the password at nakedwines.com to get their incredible deal of 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99. Everything I know about wine, I learned from my sister, who represented some wineries from Italy. And so I only know about like 4 different wines. And it's rare that they're in the place that I look for them. But these wines, we had a bunch for Thanksgiving because I wanted my sister to approve them. And she did. And believe me,
wow,
that is not an easy thing to do. But the key with Naked Wines, and my sister told me about this too, the markup on wines is usually incredible. There's a lot of middlemen. There's a lot of marketing. But Naked Wines connects winemakers and wine drinkers directly. Allows for vineyards to your door delivery at up to 60% off what you would pay in a store. Never mind in a restaurant. By cutting out the retail middleman, costs and markups, winemakers can pass those savings on to you without skimping on quality. Naked Wines has been around for over 15 years, funds over 90 independent winemakers around the world. No commitments or membership fees. You can enjoy Naked Wines hassle-free. You can pause or cancel your subscription anytime. So if you're taking a trip or you're just slowing down for a bit, super easy to do. Now's the time to join the Naked Wines community. Head to nakedwines.com/majority. Click Enter Voucher. Put in our code MAJORITY for both the code and the password, and you will get 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99 with shipping included. That's $100 off your first 6 bottles at nakedwines.com/majority. Use the code and use the word majority for code and password. That's majority for 6 bottles of wine, $39.99. The link in the podcast and YouTube descriptions, as well as at majority.fm. And now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Trump calls for all federal contracts to Harvard to be canceled. Still in his peak of fit, because Harvard wouldn't bend the knee. In wake of a major attack on Ukraine, Trump says he's just realized Putin is crazy.
What?
Knock me down with a feather.
As details emerge about the Republican Billionaire Enhancement Act that they passed in the House last week, Senate looking to pass it by July 4th. Meanwhile, NPR sues the Trump regime over its funding ban. And Pete Hegseth, remember that dude? He's in hot water again as his leak investigation story starts to spring some leaks of its own.
Things are going great over there.
Former IDF revealed that the IDF has used Palestinians as human shields. This amidst more fire bombing of civilians. And the supposed aid plan appears to be a military honeypot. Turning domestically, Americans' credit scores plunge in the wake of the Trump regime's new moves on student loans. New report, federal government covered up deadly E. coli outbreak because
That means it doesn't exist.
that's the way we do things now. Philly Whole Foods Union certified, first in the nation. Trump punts the European tariffs until July because they're nice people. Despite that, Volvo to cut 3,000 jobs because of those very same tariffs in this country, I should say. And Utah commissioned a report on youth trans care after they banned it. And it turns out that report they commissioned on trans healthcare supports repeal of their ban. And lastly, new poll. Chuck Schumer trails AOC in New York with Jewish New Yorkers. All this and more on today's Majority Report. It is
Newsday, Tuesday.
I hope everybody had a happy or a fun weekend. Took some time to consider people who have who lost their lives in defense of this country, and in some instances, many, frankly, sent by civilian leadership that really didn't have their interest, their best interest in mind.
Fund the VA. That's the lesson from Memorial Day.
Yes, unfortunately, that is not the lesson that the Republicans have learned, and they are planning massive cuts.
Look
to
at the
VA.
flag.
Yeah.
Just pay attention to the
I'm
flag.
going to hug the flag again. Remember I did that?
Meanwhile, I just want to repeat that Chuck Schumer headline. He trails AOC with New Yorkers. Jewish New Yorkers.
But all New York. I mean, I don't know why that's surprising to people.
It's not surprising, except for Chuck Schumer has stated that his number one goal is to make sure that he is make sure that the left, I guess, or the Democrats, continue to embrace Israel. Well, the thing that I do think that it's surprising to people who equate anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism and think that that you have a Senate minority leader who has said his number one job is to protect Israel. And Jewish New Yorkers still would rather have AOC. Now, I know we all know Schumer's retort. The Baileys are not Jewish.
That's a good point.
So that's, I'm a senator for all the people. But
yeah, I guess I didn't have these assumptions about Jewish New Yorkers in the same way that some of the most rabid supporters of Israel do, who coincidentally seem to be able to stereotype Jewish voters while calling everybody else anti-Semitic.
the Baileys love Israel.
Are they Jewish?
Are they Israeli, in fact?
The Baileys of Tel Aviv.
Yes. Well, they love Havla. And Nassau County spokesperson on the IM says Zoran's closing the gap on Cuomo. There's still plenty of time.
There's about to be a large canvassing presence, I understand. I've already seen Zoran people out all over Brooklyn.
Yep.
But, I think from what I hear, there's going to be a lot
I'm
more.
sure there's a lot of people who are so juiced about Cuomo running that they're going to get out there and volunteer. Honestly, I would love to meet a Cuomo volunteer.
I saw 2 Cuomo people in front of Barclays Center, and they looked very much like they're lifelong politics people climbing a ladder.
Yes. I want to just see 2 just normie, like, I've just been so inspired by Cuomo. I want to get out there and volunteer for him.
You're looking at one. Well, I mean, back in when I was like 16 years old, I interned and I canvassed. I'd stand on the street corner looking for signatures for Cuomo. So basically,
Yep.
if you are like me and you wanted college credit, that's or like
Okay, well, you're getting paid for it.
I was getting paid. I wanted on my application like, oh, I did this, and now I know better.
It's a good thing you didn't put it on your application when you applied here.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
That can cut both ways.
Exactly.
Before we get into it more, I just wanted to point this out. We headlined this, but this is a big deal because, as you know, the National Labor Relations Board has been basically kneecapped by the Trump administration. On March 26th, we had a guy named Mace Vaney on, who was one of the spokespeople, or is, for employees at a Whole Foods in Philadelphia. Well, this Whole Foods had voted in January about 130, I think it was like 130 to 100 or somewhere around there, to unionize. And then when we spoke to them in March, they were in this sort of like holding pattern because there was no National Labor Relations Board to certify the election. And however, the regional director for the National Labor Relations Board backed the union, overruling objections from Whole Foods. The decision tees up a legal battle. This, according to Josh Idelson, writing in, I think it's Bloomberg. We strongly disagree with the conclusion and we will appeal, said Whole Foods in a statement, saying the union illegally interfered with our team members' rights to a fair vote at the store. Highly dubious claim, in my estimation. But they have voted to unionize with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. This is Whole Foods owned by Amazon.
Yeah.
And so this is a big deal. And you can go back. It was the second interview we did on March 26th. That was a Wednesday. Maybe we do have just a picture of that. We can just pop that up so people can go back, listen to this interview because this is a big deal. I am not sure, but it's conceivable this is one of the first unions to be certified in the wake of Trump.
Right.
Sort of deep sixing the National Labor Relations Board. So you can just check this out here.
Second interview.
Thought I put a picture in there. Yeah, right there. So the second interview, if I remember correctly, because I can barely remember these things, but Mace was a good interview. So check that out. Also, you know, these interviews of folks unionizing their workplace, if you have any interest in organizing, go back and look at these interviews. We do most of them on Wednesdays. And just a great resource because just regular people,
right,
one day decides like, I don't like the way the boss is treating us. And they find somebody else there who feels the same, and it's off to the races. So check that out.
Yeah, I had 2 other members of the Philly Whole Foods union on Left Reckoning. On the same episode, I had Eric Blanc on, which I'd recommend people to check out that as well. Like really inspiring. Going toe-to-toe with Jeff Bezos and coming out on top.
Well, we'll see. I mean, hopefully, but certainly
Or at least
getting very far into
getting their team members on the same page.
Yeah, right.
Over the past couple of weeks, I mean, aside from the fact that Israel has ramped up its attacks on civilians, you have Israeli officials openly saying now that they're targeting civilian infrastructure. I mean, obviously, they have already targeted all civilian infrastructure in Gaza in terms of buildings, but they're targeting civilian infrastructure and it's been quite clear they've been doing this for a long time, but they're now explicitly saying they're going after nurses and doctors and aid workers and EMTs. They are now unabashedly sort of embracing the genocide. You hear some former Israeli politicians and officials calling it genocide. They're accusing Netanyahu of, going off the rails, as it were. Of course, very conveniently ignoring the fact that polls in Israel now show the general population is in favor of ethnic cleansing. They're in favor of the brutality that their government is engaging in. And during his trip to the Middle East, Trump apparently got some pressure from some of the Arab leadership. Doesn't seem like much, though, but enough for him to say there should be food going in. Israel said, okay, we will send some food aid in, insisted on being control of the program. The number of trucks that they brought in, not even woefully insufficient. I mean, clearly just for show. They barely reached any of the people there. And this is a picture of crowds at an aid distribution site.
Yeah. So, I mean, they initially had, just after that visit with Trump, let in something like half a dozen trucks, which was basically a troll. It was to say
it's like literally 1% of what they need on a daily basis.
And Ben Gvir was saying, or maybe it was Smotrich saying, this is literally just for
show,
optics. Yeah.
Yeah. There was mockery. It was about, haha, we'll give you a taste. And then there was more backlash. And then now this effort has ramped up for the United States and Israel to control humanitarian aid that's going into Gaza via something called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which has been decried by the United Nations as not essentially a sincere effort to get aid in and basically using food as a weapon of war. And then you see images like this. So there are still crowds of people in Gaza still desperate for food. So even if the United States, via their military contractors, are handing it out, people are going to flock to it, and they're being fenced in. What does this image, seriously, what does this image remind you of?
It's like cattle. And the head of the executive director of the Humanitarian Foundation stepped down just yesterday, I think it was, when I think even for his perspective, it became clear that this is just a mechanism in which the military is going to start to it's some type of honeypot or pick people off. We're unclear.
Do you remember that there were in the past accusations that Israeli drones had been playing in Arabic cries of "help me, help me"? Maybe this was a year or so ago, to draw Palestinians out so that they could kill them. This is a bit of a version of that, where it seems like this is a honeypot, as you were saying, to get Palestinians in one place and corral them for slaughter. And Jeremy Scahill reported this morning that there's already been a report of a Palestinian who's been kidnapped when they were going to pick up boxes of food. And Al Jazeera was reporting that there's been gunfire, presumably from the Israeli side, at these aid checkpoints. So we still have inadequate information, but it stands to reason that given it was, I think, 2 resignations now from this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that basically they're
no one wants this on their resume.
Right. That this is not a sincere and earnest effort to get food to people.
And remember, Wood made it clear when he took on this project that this was not going to be a mechanism to ethnically cleanse Gaza, and now he's resigned.
The flower massacre.
But
Yeah. Right.
listen to this complete left wing nut job where she gets on and talks about how what's actually going on in terms of the humanitarian aid. I give you Cindy McCain, former or wife, I should say, of the late neocon John McCain.
Catastrophe occurs.
Your organization announced at least 15 of your trucks were looted when they entered southern Gaza en route to bakeries. Israel has consistently said that the looting is being carried out by Hamas. Have you seen evidence that it is Hamas stealing the food?
No, not at all. Not in this round. Listen, these people are desperate, and they see a World Food Program truck coming in, and they run for it. This doesn't have anything to do with Hamas or any kind of organized crime or anything. It has simply to do with the fact these people are starving to death. And so we will continue to go in. We will continue to go in with food and the kinds of supplies that we need to help the bakeries operate and make sure that we can continue to do that and hopefully be able to do more of it. But again, we can't do this unless the world community puts pressure on this. We can't be allowed to sit back and watch these people starve to death with no outside diplomatic influence to help us. These poor souls are really, really, really desperate. And, having been in a food riot myself some years ago, I understand the desperation very well.
Well, 5 days ago, Prime Minister Netanyahu vowed to take control of all of Gaza, which seems to be a shift from going in, carrying out raids, and then withdrawing.
No, it doesn't.
We've seen the Pope speak out. We've seen the leaders of France, of Canada, of the UK calling the cutting of aid egregious. Netanyahu said criticism like that is feeding Hamas and really feeding anti-Semitism. What do you make of that pushback from him, that criticisms of the state are feeding hate?
What I do know is they're not feeding people. And the most important part of this is that's what we're supposed to be doing. I'm very grateful for anyone, the Pope, any of the folks that did shout out and say, listen, we need to get more in. But I can't tell you as to exactly what Netanyahu's thinking or anything else. What I do know for a fact is that we need food to get into Gaza to avoid an utter catastrophe.
We already know thousands have starved to death. You just need to see the images of the children that are, if they're not, half of their head is blown off, then some of them are just completely emaciated. It's good that the news is starting to pick up on this, because this quote, it just shows that the Israelis don't take human life seriously. They say, this is a top Israeli official. We are fighting human animals and we act accordingly. We are imposing a complete siege on Gaza. There will be no electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything will be closed.
Was that Gallant, like early?
Oh, right. That was 2 days after October 7th. Yeah. So everything that it sounds like Netanyahu's not earnest about not wanting to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip. That sounds like they actually are interested in starving these people to death,
maybe
killing
the students
them all.
Were right.
Maybe just have some sort of reflection on this. But as you know, with the Iraq war stuff, it seems like many of our members of the media will just go about unscathed after just completely midwifing this genocide.
Oh, and then 2 or 3 years later there'll be some type of mild mea culpa. And we're going to need to see that, I think, with politicians as well, or we will, I imagine. We got more to talk about. We'll go through some more of the finer points of that reconciliation bill in a moment. First, a couple of words of from our sponsors. Well, me reading the sponsorships. It's spring still, right? When does summer start?
I call summer once kids start graduating. So
yeah.
I think it's summer.
Well, it's still technically early enough to plant. And fast-growing trees is the place where you can get your plants or trees or shrubs your fruit trees, your privacy trees, your ornamental trees, and put them in the ground now. Still time. Doesn't matter what kind of plants you're interested in. Fast Growing Trees has you covered. I have been a client. I've just been buying from
customer.
I've been a customer of Fast Growing Trees
It's
for
our biggest client up in Hudson.
for a decade, and way before they became sponsors. And Fast Growing Trees can provide you with the perfect fit for your climate and space. I've planted apple trees, Korean pear trees, peach trees, bloomerang trees. That's a lilac that comes back, that just bloomed and then comes back in like July, if you can believe it. Looks like a big popsicle, lollipop. Yep. You can get shrubs. You can get stuff in for your house too. Fig trees, anything. Check it out. Fast Growing Trees delivers right to your house. They give you an Alive and Thrive guarantee, ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. You don't have to, break the trees, put them in the back of your Subaru. Coming from the box store, we only have 2 types of apple trees. They got a 14-point quality checklist that ensures you're getting the best quality plants possible. You could talk to their experts about your soil type, your landscape design, how to take care of your plants. There's a resource center that lets you know what zone that you live in for growing purposes, and maybe, what you need to amend your soil with. A lot of times you don't need to even do that. Fast Growing Trees has the best deals, up to half off on select plants and other deals. Listeners to our show get 15% off your first purchase when using the code majority at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code majority at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com. Code is majority. Now is the perfect time to plant. Use majority to save today. Offer valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. We'll put the link in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. Also, sponsoring the program today, this is a great gift. This would be a great gift for Father's Day. This would be a great gift for my kids to give to me. I've given this to my parents in the past, and it really is, it is a gift that it's good for everybody involved in the process. Storyworth Memoirs. Listen to this. This is important, particularly speaking as someone who has lost a parent this past year. This is a great gift for Father's Day. What Storyworth is it basically, it automatically sends emails to whoever you gift it to. Let's say it's your mom or your dad, or it could be your uncle, could be a grandparent. And it just gives them really sort of benign prompts that gets them to tell a story each week. They're not necessarily going to have the best stories, but over time, you get a lot of stories that you didn't know about. They love it because it makes them feel like, this is a great excuse for me to tell stories. You love it because you get to learn more about your parents and stories that might leave with them when they leave. And at the end of the year, not only do you get email copies of their response, but at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos, if you want, into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you're going to be able to share and revisit for years and years and years to come. And so this is also there's multiple gifts wrapped up in this. So you can give it for Father's Day, you can give it for Mother's Day. You don't even need really an excuse to give it to anybody. It's a nice gift. And then you take these stories and you can give them to your brothers or your sisters or your cousins. It really is a great, it's a great gift. It's a great idea. And it also, some people don't like to talk about themselves or give, nobody's going to write a story on their own each week unless they're like a writer.
Right.
But if you, within the context of this, it's it just makes it happen. Give the dads in your life a unique, heartfelt gift that you're all going to cherish for years. Storyworth, right now, save $10 during their Father's Day sale when you go to storyworth.com/majority. That's storyworth.com/majority to save $10 on your order. We will put those links and descriptions in the podcast and YouTube description and at majority.fm. B Money CPA, not necessarily going to have the best stories. I appreciate the honesty in the Storyworth ad read, Sam. Well, listen, every week is not going to be a gem, but let's say you get like a really interesting story once a month even.
Yes.
That's
great.
I feel like my kids would be happy if I said something once a month that was even remotely interesting to them. It's just, I mean, that's just the way that's their attitude. I don't know what to tell you.
Kids these days.
Kids these days are, get more into the Harvard thing. I mean, I just briefly, the idea that this is sort of some type of working class hero assault on Harvard is one of the dumbest takes that someone could have. Understand that the money they're cutting back from Harvard goes into research. Now, I would have no problem if we had government research facilities that could supplant universities. But part of why universities exist are to do this type of research that doesn't necessarily have a clear payoff.
Right.
And it's not 100% government funded. Harvard puts money in there too, because it bolsters their reputation and their prestige as a university. So the only thing that's going to come out of this, and I would love it if this country funded vocational schools more than they do, which is barely at this point. I would love that. I would love it if the government provided funding for all colleges to provide some vocational training. Frankly, in high schools too. I think it should be mandatory, shop class or whatever. But that aside, Donald Trump is not going to pump all this money into vocational schools. 100% they're not going to do it. Now, I could see, would he give a grant to some for-profit university? That I can imagine.
Or some religious university.
Exactly.
Liberty.
Exactly.
They must be at the top of the list, Jerry Falwell.
Don't they learn how to beat plowshares? I mean, swords into plowshares? Okay. The money that Harvard, that they would cut from these contracts and these grants to Harvard is going to mean that down the road, there's just going to be less science. We're just going to know less about the human condition or the condition of nature or whatever it is. This is just like the stupidification of the country, which is consistent with the entire Trump thing. But the idea that this is somehow like some attack on elites is just, you want to attack elites? Tax them.
But that's what the entire Republican faux populist branding is, right? Where it's not a systemic critique of billionaires or capitalism. It's the wrong elites that are usually black or Jewish or female or gay or trans. It's the wrong elites.
Glasses wearing.
Or, woke in some way that they decided, or just not a university that decided that they were going to bend the knee to Trump, because Harvard has such a level of financing and such a deep endowment pocket that they had the ability to say no.
Yeah, do DEI for us conservative freaks, or we're going to attack your school.
Yeah.
It really does make it sort of more clear that so much of this Trump movement is built on social resentment as opposed to, some type of economic populism. Now, I think there is an argument that when you don't provide people material benefits, it's much easier for them to slip into this type of social resentment, because that's all that's left.
Yep.
Right? This, if anybody saw Welcome to the Dollhouse.
Or it's like a more Marxist, kind of vision, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, of like, say, like how to combat misogyny. It's also, if men feel more disempowered in the workplace, they're more likely to take it out at home too, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, like, we had a pie that was growing. Like, we talk about rivalry and non-rivalrous stuff. Well, wages have been stagnating for decades now, and people no longer see the workplace as the type of empowerment it was. We need to figure out a way to, empower people, and instead what we're getting is messages about how feminism stole something from you.
People want to feel empowered, and they looked for villains, or they look for people to step on to achieve that. And so it's not to say that like those individual views aren't repugnant. It's just to say that they become more mendacious and they spread more quickly when people's material needs are not met.
All right. With all that said, the reconciliation bill that just passed in the House is, it's hard to overstate how much this is a giveaway to the rich in this country. We have shown you the charts in the past days of the distribution of the tax benefits. The biggest distributions of tax benefits go to the wealthiest 20th percentile. And it's 3.3% tax breaks to the top 0.01%. To the 1%, 3.4% tax breaks. To the top 10%, 3.4 tax breaks. And then it just gets smaller and smaller the less money you make. In terms of percentages, I'm not even talking, obviously, real dollars. There are also corporate tax breaks, which are another way of providing tax breaks for wealthy people. There are all sorts of other provisions in there. We know that it kicks anywhere from 8 to 12 million people off of Medicaid. We know that it's going to kick millions of people off of food stamps or a SNAP. And it's also going to get rid of the automatic stabilizer that when we hit some type of financial crisis or recession, it's going to inhibit the ability of people to get on food assistance. We know that it's going to cut $500 billion from Medicare because of automatic sequestration, because of how out of sync it makes the budget. We know that it adds trillions upon trillions of dollars in debt. This is all because of $4 trillion worth of tax cuts. We know that it gets rid of the estate tax exemptions. So if you were worried about, that 12, that last million on the 12 million that you were going to get from your folks, well, you're not going to have to worry about that being taxed anymore. I think the exemption was somewhere around 11 million for a couple.
Insane level of inheritance. Insane.
Just a little bit of a leg
Sorry
up.
you hate generational wealth.
Right. I'm sorry. I should have supported all the hard work that those grandkids did sucking up to grandpa.
It gets rid of, in terms of tax breaks, it does cut back on some tax breaks. So things like clean energy tax credits for geothermal and
Gotta tighten our belts.
yeah, we gotta tell you, we can't do the giveaway for the stuff to protect the planet. Solar, EVs. It scraps as a part of a savings existing repayment options on student loans if you went into public service. It narrows Pell Grant eligibility. Also, here's a couple of things that were sort of buried in there that we're only now starting to get a clearer picture of. I'm sure there's some people who, follow this explicitly. But what it also does is it cuts federal employee retirement benefits. And it also has another provision, in addition to cutting some of those retirement benefits across the board. It has another provision which doesn't really save much money, maybe a little bit, but nothing terribly relevant. Right now, federal workers get retirement benefits through what is known as FERS, or the Federal Employees Retirement System. They are paid a pension based upon their length of service, which is funded through contributions both from federal workers and their agencies. Current federal workers put in a percentage of their paycheck into this system, either nearly 1% or almost 4.5%, depending on when they were hired. Government covers the rest. This measure tucked into this bill would add 5% surcharge. So you'd either be, for some of these contributions would go up to 9.5%, unless they agree to forego civil service protection if they become at-will workers. So this is basically an extortion play. They're going to offer you, it's going to cost you 5% essentially to get civil service status. Understand that we've had civil service status in this country for about 100 years, maybe more, so that you would not have corrupt patronage deals. So simultaneously, there's another attack on, via the whole Schedule F thing, and maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow, because there's an opportunity for you to put public comment into this. But this is tucked into that reconciliation bill. Essentially, the typical federal worker would give up about $3,500 annually if they want civil service protections.
And we know, because of Project 2025 and Doge, why civil service protections are such a threat to what they're trying to do here. So they're basically saying, leave yourself open to being fired for any reason, or take a pay cut to your benefits. That's what it is.
Take a pay cut, period.
Take a pay cut.
Yep.
Yeah, well.
That's basically it. They'll take it out of they'll put it into your benefit. That's it.
Yeah.
That's one fun provision. There's another that they're going to be touting, and I think we touched on this briefly, but it really is just a boondoggle. And one of those things that sounds good until you read to the third paragraph of the proposal, which it's at this point, it's a bill that has passed the House. This is also tucked into the reconciliation bill. It was originally known as MAGA accounts, Money Account for Growth and Advancement. And now they're just called Trump accounts.
Oh, good.
And what it is, for babies born, this is just hilarious. For babies born from the beginning of 2025 through the end of 2028, the government will put $1,000 into an account for every child born in this country.
Right.
And that in and of itself doesn't sound like a bad thing. But then you start to hear some of the details and you realize this is just like an attempt to basically provide rich people with another way of having a tax advantage account. So $1,000 goes in. And experts are looking at this going like, this seems like a joke. And it really is. After that, parents can contribute up to $5,000 annually for the kids. And then all of a sudden you've already said like, oh, okay, this isn't, the extra money is not available for what, 60, 70% of the of Americans.
The people who really need that 1K aren't going to be the type of people that are going to also contribute
$5,000 annually.
Right. Wait, so is the contribution of $5,000 annually required to maintain the account?
No.
Okay.
But the money can grow tax-free until it's withdrawn. It must be invested in a broad stock index. So it's a way of juicing the stock market.
Nice. Like we didn't do that enough with 401ks.
And here's the thing. Once it's cashed out, the investment returns will be taxed as long-term capital gains, which have a low tax rate, but only if the funds are used for one of the approved purposes. So one can be paying for higher education. Now, if you have the ability to put $5,000 into your child's account, you already have a 529, which unless you're absolutely convinced that your kid's not going to go to college, you would put it in there because that's going to give you, that's uncapped.
Right.
It can be used for other job training purposes. So that $1,000 is going to end up being after, I don't know, by the time you're 18, 3,000?
Yeah.
I don't know. It can be used for starting a small business or making a down payment on a first home. Anything else, it'll be treated as ordinary income. But here's the thing. Children can begin taking it out once their savings turns 18, but can't use more than half before age 25. Then at 31, all the cash is automatically dispersed. So presumably, if you're going to use it for a down payment, you'd have to take it out at age 31. It's not going to be even remotely close to enough.
Right.
According to Yahoo, the Trump account could theoretically be useful for families who are already comfortable with their retirement savings and whose children don't plan to pursue college, since the money could be used with other purposes like home buying without a penalty. But even then, there might be pitfalls. If a child ends up...
But can you pause it there for a sec? So can you read that sentence again? Theoretically, that could be used for parents who...
Okay, so if you're already set with your own retirement...
Right. Exactly.
And your kid is clear they're not going to use it to go to college. When they're 2 or 3 or 5 or 10.
So you're a person who's set with your retirement. You have the money to be set for your retirement, and you think that your kid's not going to go to college. I'm just trying to say how specific this instance is. Yeah.
But the problem is, if the child ends up spending the money on anything other than an education or a business or a house, they get hit with the higher ordinary income rate. And then it actually takes out more, and the family would have been better off investing in a normal brokerage account. In other words, it is one financial advisor said a family would need to be shockingly sure that their child wasn't going to college before it would make sense to invest in a Trump account instead of a 529. And the thing is, 529s are only available for wealthy people anyways. So what basically happens is this is $1,000 giving to rich people, and they'll take it out and put it towards the private school that they're going to send their kid to, and it'll augment their 529. It's just basically exactly. But you're not going to hear a description of it beyond like, everybody's getting $1,000 from Donald Trump. That's why they call it a Trump account. Now, there are new spending elements of the reconciliation bill, and the vast majority is towards building wall, pursuing immigrants, and putting them into private prisons.
That's good.
Yep. $46.5 billion for border construction. That is adjusted for inflation. That's almost 3 times what the Trump administration spent building 400 miles of wall in the first term.
This has got to be in the form of an invoice to Mexico, right?
I mean, they'll pay us back. It is a quarter of the cost of the entire Apollo space program, just to give you a sense. It is almost 2 times the value of all USAID programming. It could operate almost 1.5 years of a universal free pre-K program for all children. Or you could give each immigrant, or each migrant, I should say, who the Border Patrol apprehended during the entire Biden administration, you give them $6,300. That's it. Build a wall. You just hand out, I don't know, $2,500 and say, just, come back in 3 years. It provides $45 billion for adult and family detention.
That's heartwarming.
Yep.
Evil. Just on the Apollo space program, obviously the going to the moon and all that, really cool. Also, spin-offs from that research, that public research, include innovative materials, heat-resistant fabrics, insulation, things like athletic shoes, miniature circuits, and digital computing technology. Anybody use any digital computers or miniature circuits?
Computers?
That's because of the Apollo. Freeze-drying food. So I'm sure building a giant wall on the Rio Grande will have the same sort of scientific benefits.
Matt, how about considering the wall building technology improvements that we'll have?
Yeah, bring in some Missouri.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, hello.
To be fair, they're probably, because they're funding so much into this, perhaps if they are also funding research and other ways for us to advance technologically in this country.
We'll do a golden dome here too.
Yeah, no, just kidding. They're if it sounds woke, they're cutting it.
I mean, honestly, we could just light the money on fire.
Yeah.
It'd be better, honestly.
You could have people actually study, how much heat does it put off to light that much money on fire? And
even the climate change effects would be better than the incarcerating humanity and preparing for dystopia effects.
$15 billion for ICE to deport migrants, and another 16 to hire new ICE agents.
People to sit on their iPhone while people are in cages 15 feet away from
but I mean, look at the work that these guys do. Did you see, I've seen them round up a couple of different women in Massachusetts, and honestly, all it takes is about 12 to 15 of these guys.
It's like going after El Chapo.
And they're totally on it. I mean, it is really the way they move, how quickly they can move and surround women with babies is incredibly impressive. Because,
Untouchables?
Listen.
It's like they're the Fantastic Four.
You have to worry. What if the kid projectile vomits?
What if he does another op-ed at you?
Exactly.
On that note, I was encouraged to
I think we all know the pen is mightier than the sword. And so there's a lot of danger.
A lot scarier.
But just as an aside, AOC had a campaign email that went out yesterday that mentioned abolish ICE for the first time in quite a while. We saw Bill Kristol even saying maybe AOC was onto something about abolishing ICE. It's not something that was enshrined in our Constitution. It was created after 9/11, and it's now basically functioning as this kind of secret police for the Trump administration. So let's put that back on the table, please.
It still amazes me that we have not heard a single story of a gunfight from all these dangerous immigrants that we're rolling up. Not a single injury. Not the most amount of action they had is like tackling a 16-year-old girl that's trying to protect her mom.
Having to do some cardio because a judge, gave you weird directions.
Exactly. The big danger is getting dehydrated because of their all the gear that they're wearing around. This bill is headed to the Senate. They want to do this by July 4th. Here is a quick rundown of some of the things you should pay attention to. And I wish we actually had a mechanism in which we could bet on who's going to cave out of these.
Polymarket.com.
Not legal in the United States.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It sounds like a cue for a sound drop. Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and Josh Hawley are supposedly concerned about the Medicaid cuts because, again, it's kicking anywhere from 8 to 13 million people off of their health insurance and will be responsible for closing tens upon tens of rural hospitals.
50% of rural hospitals, half of rural hospitals operate with negative margins. These rural hospitals need Medicaid to sustain themselves. it is estimated that over 60% of rural hospital, or no, I'm sorry, that's not the exact statistic, but it is estimated that hundreds of rural hospitals are going to close. And the 60% one is that Medicaid expansion states, rural hospitals in states that expanded Medicaid are 62% less likely to close than states that didn't expand Medicaid, which are primarily located in the Southeast, and that's also where uninsured rates are higher. This is really going to impact rural hospitals. And if a rural hospital closes and it was already 45 minutes away from you, what the hell are you going to do?
We will also see, I imagine, some urban hospitals close. But
I mean, that's the thing about these attack on universities and, foreign students and the NIH funding or whatever, is the blue dots in the red areas are also where a lot of hospitals are. And those are going to be impoverished too by all these things.
It could be up to 300 hospitals,
There you go.
rural hospitals. But about 750 are like at risk. So you got Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Josh Hawley. They're concerned about the Medicaid stuff. I'm going to bet Murkowski will vote against this bill also because there's a lot of federal workers up there. Now, we don't know what the bill is going to look like coming out of the Senate. So we'll see. Josh Hawley, it'll be interesting to see if this guy caves. Susan Collins, F her.
Although she's up in 26, so that is interesting.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Mike Crapo wants to make the tax breaks permanent. Let's see who else. A lot of the Republicans in the Senate, they don't care about that SALT deduction because essentially it's big. It's a big tax giveaway to wealthy people on the coasts.
In blue states, and if there's like not really many deep blue state Republican senators, I can't think of any off the top of my head because it's a statewide race.
They don't care.
Yeah.
Apparently, Murkowski and John Curtis, Tom Tillis, who is also up for re-election, and Jerry Moran are concerned about getting rid of tax credits for wind, solar, geothermal. People were banking on this stuff, and you had companies that invested with the idea that they're going to get a certain amount of revenue over the course of the next 10 years because of these tax breaks are going to be encourage more and more people to adopt things like geothermal or solar, et cetera.
Have you ever looked at the top states for wind energy? It's states like Texas, Iowa, Oklahoma, Kansas. North Dakota,
really? Kansas? Jerry Moran, you mean?
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, there are some lunatics who want more cuts than we have seen. Ron Johnson, who will definitely cave. Roger Marshall from Kansas and Ted Cruz. I would also keep an eye on Joni Ernst. There was a new poll that came out where there was one Democrat who, in a head-to-head poll put out by Data Progress, Ernst was still in the lead. But when they started to provide biographies, like a hypothetical campaign almost, if you will, Ernst was down. And that's going to change her perspective on things.
She was worried about the Elon Musk money earlier on in the year with all of those votes. Shifted a little bit since Wisconsin.
I also said Rand Paul from Kentucky, but Ron Johnson.
Right. But that and now I recall as I'm speaking, it was over the Hegseth vote. Remember Joni Ernst, survivor of sexual assault?
Yep.
And there was a question as to whether or not she'd vote for Hegseth, but the Elon Musk money was looming large, and now that dynamic has changed since it seems like his money's more of a negative.
I think I've done enough.
So understand what the dynamic is here. They want to get this bill. They want to come up with the Senate bill by July. They need this process to be wound up and done by September, because the closer it gets to early November, the bigger problem they're going to have. Because in November, we're going to see elections in Virginia. And just like Wisconsin put a scare into a lot of these Republicans, Virginia is going to put an existential fear into them because they're going to lose bad in Virginia. And then people like Collins and Ernst and Tillis, they all, Murkowski.
But
yes.
also federal workers a lot in Virginia and a lot in Alaska. That's the connection I'm drawing.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're going to all start getting a little bit weak in the knees because they're up for re-election. I don't know if Murkowski is, but she's, I think, more concerned about just, down the road. She's got federal workers up there. And so this is going to be a big issue for them. They need to get this done, and they probably will. This is going to be a disastrous bill for the country. But, and Democrats are just basically waiting and doing nothing with the hopes that it'll be disastrous for them politically. They may be right, but certainly they're not going to be maximizing anything because they're just going to let it all happen without really doing anything. Meanwhile, you got Trump out there trying to salvage the House by, trying to convince people to run again. People like Mike Lawler, don't run for governor.
He wants Stefanik to run, which is another instance of him setting her up to fail, which is hilarious.
Well, she already, she's just the odd person out. And so we got to get her out of here. Just get her to do something in New York.
But there was internal reports that he thinks the UN ambassador job is really crappy. That's why he stuck Mike Waltz on it now, too. And so now he's giving her another thankless, surefire lost job, or at least by pushing her and not
run
Lawler.
from governor. Maybe you'll win.
Yeah, in 26. Good luck.
Trump has also apparently gone out and endorsed a bunch of swing state Republicans to basically clear the field from any primaries. Now he can pull those. I changed my mind because Elon told me to, but we'll see. But that's basically where we are with the state of play of this reconciliation bill. It's a disastrous bill, and it's only going to get more problematic for them as it goes forward. We'll see what happens. We're going to start over the next couple of weeks to see them work in earnest. They have 5 weeks essentially to do this in the Senate. And then they go on recess, I think, for several weeks over the summer. So we'll see. Now it's time for us to take a break and head into the fun half of the program.
Wow. Yes. Yes, it is.
I am picking up a tone in your voice saying oh, you thought we were going to go early. And in fact, it's past 1.
No, I was surprised that we didn't go longer, in fact. But,
there you go. I was determined. We're supposed to be doing 45 minutes in the front half of the show. It's sort of like a mission creep.
Yeah, we haven't done that since Emma joined here.
I
think we basically weren't doing that once Trump became president the first time.
Well, it's okay. So it's gotten a little bit, it's gotten very entrenched.
Mission creep.
Yep. Folks, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, but you get the fun half, which is also had mission creep. That was supposed to be another 45 minutes. It's grown and grown. Jointhemajorityreport.com. It's your support that makes this show possible every day, day in, day out, except for Memorial Day. The one day we take off. Maybe there's one other day I think we take off, but that's about it. Also, justcoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Matt, Left Reckoning.
Yeah, big show tonight on Left Reckoning. Not only do I have Representative Ro Khanna on talking about things like Gaza and the political economy relative to China and the Truman Committee and Doge. We also have, I'm excited to have Straighteraid on, who is a streamer who people might remember from the Whatever podcast, where 2 times she was on with Dave Rubin asking Dave why he won't debate Sam Seder. So we're going to hear the we're going to hear the story behind that tonight. So 7 o'clock Eastern time, full show for y'all. Check us out, patreon.com/leftreckoning. Also, we're only under 2,000 shy of 100,000 for Twitch. So if you're following us on Twitch, or if you're not following us on Twitch but watching,
Poggers,
give us a follow.
Hype train. Oh, we got some fun clips in the fun half. I forgot to play that clip. We'll have to play it when we get back. All right, folks, see you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. See white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males,
psych, fuck them. Oh. Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. All lives matter.
Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on! Fuck 'em. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday! Happy birthday to me, Jew boy! I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on! Come on! Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back. Oh, we've got some clips, folks.
We do.
I'm not sure if people heard this, but Charlie Kirk did a debate in London, and Jordan Peterson did one of those Jubilee surrounded things.
It seemed a little bit less prepared for it than you were.
We're gonna go into those in a moment, but first,
behave yourself. Watch your manners.
That was it.
You seemed in control.
I'm going to. Honestly, we gotta wait because I'm going to do the
Once
rest.
You get
I'm
going.
going to do the rest of the show as Jordan Peterson.
Okay, great.
In this clip, so we were talking about the reconciliation bill, and obviously the top line of this is that it's cutting almost $1 trillion from Medicaid. And it's not only going to kick anywhere from 8 to 13 million people off their health insurance, but it's also going to put probably close to 250, 300 rural hospitals at severe risk of closing. It's almost a guarantee that you're going to get at least 150 closed. And And on top of that, in sort of like a sort of a passive manner, it's going to end up cutting $500 billion from Medicare as well. And we'll see what the implications of that happens a little bit further down the line. But how do you, as a Republican lawmaker, justify the voting for this bill? If you're like Mike Johnson, you're out there saying, well, this is all, we're just getting rid of immigrants who are on the bill. That's it. It's just immigrants and people who shouldn't be there. And people are just going around using their Medicaid, refusing to work, just trying to be really poor so they get free health insurance because they're living so large. Mm-hmm. Or there's another tack that you can take, which Brian Kilmeade took in this exchange, where people have to understand you've got a monkey on your back when it comes to this whole healthcare thing.
Barack Obama made Obamacare, and all those states got the free money. And now all of a sudden, Medicaid doesn't look anything like it was supposed to, and it's 95% financed by the federal government. It's supposed to be a state program.
And the longer we leave it that way.
Medicaid has always been financed by the feds.
Always. It's
just been essentially like a block granted to the states. They get to administer it. That's it. I mean, it's just an out and out lie. And the difference between Medicaid pre-Obama and post-Obama, the Affordable Care Act, is it went from you're eligible if you're at 100% poverty line or lower to you're eligible at 133% of poverty line and lower. And so, I mean, he's basically saying we want to go back to pre-expansion of Medicaid and get rid of those 10, 15 million people who signed up there. At least he's being honest about it.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay.
They're not all immigrants. It's just that, according to Kilmeade, well, here, go back.
Well, he goes to 95%, which like the expansion rate is 90%, right? But it can be
the payment
increase. Okay.
Yeah, the payment initially was 95, and then it dropped down to 90%.
Okay.
Barack Obama made Obamacare, and all those states got the free money. And now all of a sudden, Medicaid doesn't look anything like it was supposed to, and it's 95% financed by the federal government. It's supposed to be a state program.
And the longer we leave it that way, the more permanent that becomes.
Right, because people get addicted to the free money. Let's talk about something special.
Yeah, I'm addicted to the free money that's keeping my hospital open.
I'm so addicted. I mean, there is something to be said about that. I am completely addicted to health.
I'm addicted to living.
I have found when I have less health, it starts to make me feel sicker.
I'm addicted to having life, and if I don't have it, it's almost like I'm going to die.
I'm addicted to not having to go 90 minutes in case I have a heart attack someplace.
Oh, you need all this money to get health care. Look at you. What are you supposed to do? Like go and... Incidentally, 65% of people on Medicaid right now work. You've got another 10% who are not capable of working, but don't necessarily qualify for disability. You got another 10% who are working full-time, taking care of a loved one, but that's not considered a job. I mean,
it's 8%. The figure that is like that is not working and is on Medicaid,
and they're
or isn't in school or acting as a caretaker.
They're just living it up.
Oh, I'm sure
they're living it up.
The Affordable Care Act in the states that didn't accept the free money, as Brian Kilmeade describes it, the states that didn't have uninsured rates that are double the states that did. And wow, that must be a real addiction, huh? Giving people health insurance. But the states that expanded, they have halved their uninsured rate. And when you look at the analysis of who is uninsured in this country, 3/4 of adults without health insurance are concentrated in the states that haven't expanded Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, which are very populous southern states, including Georgia, Florida, and Texas. So, I mean, like, the effects are completely obvious. The Affordable Care Act didn't do enough. The patient protection part was good, but the Medicaid expansion was very effective in getting people who are so poor that they couldn't even qualify previously access to health care. And now it's something, when you include CHIP, Children's Health Insurance Program, that's like 80 million Americans. Medicaid is the largest insurer. And there's the other thing for people wonder, like, why are some seniors also on Medicaid and on Medicare if they're above 65? Because Medicare doesn't cover long-term care in the same way that Medicaid does.
2/3 of Americans in nursing homes are covered by Medicaid.
This is going to be affecting the people, like people who are too old to work, who don't have the savings, or whose kids don't have the savings to take care of them in their retirement.
All right, let's I mean, this is what they're having to sell to the American public. All right. Let's get to the fun stuff. Come on, it's the fun half.
Okay.
Should we start with Jordan Peterson?
I think so.
Okay. Now, you will notice that the YouTube of this is titled Jordan Peterson versus 20 Atheists. When it was first released, it was not titled that. It was titled One Christian versus 20 Atheists. Now, I'm trying to think, like, what was mine called? Like progressive or something like that, right?
Versus conservatives, I believe.
Progressive versus conservative. That's the way they do it.
That's accurate, yeah.
And they give you, as far as I remember, like latitude, like I think I suggested that.
The top comment says, the way Jubilee changed the title from One Christian versus 20 Atheists featuring Jordan Peterson to Jordan Peterson versus 20 Atheists after 4 hours is so funny.
Well, part of the reason why they did this is because someone pointed out that Jordan Peterson claimed that he's not Christian in the video.
We're about to play that part. He gets very defensive about it.
This is not new for Jordan, who I suspect does not believe in God like the people in your life who believe in God. And he's been lying about and pretending about that and fudging that for years and years, even though it's been pretty obvious.
Has he said that he doesn't?
He's always did this thing about, what do you mean by believe in God? And what do you mean by Christian and all that stuff? Oh, do I have some relationship to the infinite? He's been doing this the entire time because he's lying about his actual beliefs.
But I don't even understand, like, I mean, it's honestly like this whole thing feels like Jordan Peterson was kidnapped and dropped into this circle and made to debate these people. That's not how it works. I've done one of these.
You could decline this if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, it was totally my option as to whether to do this. And in fact, not only was it my option to do this, I actually had to go somewhere to do it. They did not all show up.
But you don't understand. Jordan has no choice anymore because of what's been taken from him. You know, his respectability, his
professional qualifications,
professional practice. So he has no choice. Like, he is in a prison of wokeness's making. And so he has to do these media appearances.
I am forced into this.
Also, Russell Brand is Christian now. Joe Rogan looks like he's church curious. So it's getting a bit more crowded in the I kind of believe in God department.
All right, basically prison labor.
Here's Jordan Peterson. And this is, which one is this? Is this the...
this is the first one, I guess. Yeah, this part. And then, yeah, we'll play two of these.
Sure. So do you believe in the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good notion of God?
What do you mean by believe?
Do you think it to be true?
That's the circular definition. What do you mean when you say you believe?
How is that circular?
Because you added no content to the answer by substituting the word true and believe.
I said you think it to be true.
All right. So If you believe something, you stake your life on it.
What do you mean by that?
You live for it.
Okay, can you pause it? I'm sorry. So this is a really interesting rhetorical trick I've heard some conservatives deploy in relation to Donald Trump, where it's like, actually I heard Anna Kasparian say this on TYT. If you if you think Donald Trump is a fascist, then wouldn't that necessitate basically advocating for his assassination? Where did we get to that logical leap? Like, it's like when you're in this kind of trap where you can't necessarily get out of it, so you have to strawman the opponent as basically being hysterical, right? Or make the
what
bar
do you mean by
to entry.
Straw man?
Right.
What do you mean by straw man?
We've all heard of the Gish Gallop, which is a rhetorical technique in which a person in a debate attempts to overwhelm an opponent by presenting an excessive number of arguments without regard for their accuracy or strength. This is the sort of inverse of that.
Whoa. What do you mean by inverse?
So what Sam is doing there is what I'm going to coin the pedantry prance, which is that you just keep taking issue with.
By issue? What do you mean by issue? Wait, young man. You answer me. What do you mean by issue?
You need to agree on terms.
What do you mean by issue? I don't have to agree with anything you say.
By issue,
this is not about you bullying me into agreeing with you. You don't even know what the word issue means.
I just mean like you take exception to.
Good. So issue means exception. Then what does exception mean?
For instance, the word belief.
Is it an exception or is it an issue? All you did was change the word.
It's pedantry prance.
Prance. Really? What do you mean by prance? Are we prancing right now?
Around, exactly.
Dancing around. Dancing around.
In a frivolous manner.
I see. So why is there two words? Why don't we just say prancing around? This is the problem. You're dismissed.
What do you mean by that?
You live for it and you die for it. That's what I mean by that. It isn't something that you say. It isn't something that's associated with logical consistency. It's not declarative. It's not propositional. It's not a figment of your imagination. It's the presupposition of your attention and your action. And you're either fragmented, in which case you worship multiple gods, or there's some unity at the bottom of it that makes you an unstoppable force.
Okay, so you're saying that you don't believe something if you wouldn't die for it?
Not really, no.
Okay. So then,
how would you define belief? Something you say?
Okay, so I explain. Like, I could believe it is the case that this pen exists, but if someone threatened my life, right, I would lie in order to be able to save my life, right? Like, I think you would do that too. You wouldn't lie to save your life.
Don't be so sure.
You wouldn't lie to save your life.
Don't be so sure.
How much do you know about
Tell me about
I
this
didn't
pen
lie to-
exists. Tell me if this pen exists and try. Shoot me now. Shoot me now. Shoot me. Kill me.
What's great
Kill
about this-
me. Shoot me now, dead with the pen.
He has no thought of where he's going. So
Stick
now
it into my eye.
He's backed into the corner where, under no circumstances, can he utter an untruth.
He so desperately didn't want to answer the question, do you believe in an all-power? Like, he couldn't even.
No, this is a gotcha question. What is belief? What is God? What is everything? What is pen? What do you mean pen?
So he catches him here, and this is where Jordan has to get defensive about, do you know anything about me?
Oh, yes. Yes, this is a debate on ideas. But first, I hope you're familiar with my CV.
He's doing a great job, but he should have been like, what do you mean by no?
This pen exists, but if someone threatened my life, right, I would lie in order to be able to save my life, right? Like, I think you would do that too. You wouldn't lie to save your life?
Don't be so sure.
You wouldn't lie to save your life?
How much do you know about me?
Hold on, go back, please. Go back. I want to hear that again. Don't be so sure.
Like, I think you would do that too. You wouldn't lie to save your life?
Don't be so sure.
You wouldn't lie to save your life?
How much do you know about me? I didn't lie to save my career. I didn't lie to save my clinical practice.
Oh, pause it. Pause it for a second.
Pause it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
His career? Like, which career has been more successful for him?
You're right.
I mean, honestly.
His practice or his media personality?
I mean, honestly.
And he insisted on lies. That's why he lost his professional credentials in Canada. He insisted on calling Elliot Page's doctors criminal butchers, which is just a right-wing propaganda.
What does butcher mean?
Exactly.
What does criminal mean?
Right. It turns out none of the things that, and the Royal Psychiatrists of Montreal or whatever said, we're going to give you every opportunity to go back on this. And he said, I'd rather just feed the hogs on right-wing media.
Right, because of the cash associated with it.
Oh, what does cash mean? Who knows?
Listen, bucko, you don't know.
Go ahead. Wait a second.
I would die for my cash. That's how much I believe in it.
I didn't lie to save my clinical practice.
Would you lie to like save your children, your mom, your dad?
I don't think lying would save them.
Can there ever be a circumstance logic?
Wait a second. The guy set up a hypothetical about somebody coming in saying, is this a pen? And if the guy says it's a pen, they're going to kill him. And now Peterson has now changed the hypothetical in such a way that, well, lying wouldn't help that. But then why would he address the fact that he wouldn't lie in other circumstances?
But this guy comes up with a good response to it, too, because he catches him and it gives him a scenario in which lying could save his family.
A pretty famously obvious scenario to Europe. One in America would be like maybe escape slaves. Would you? Or
what about your money or your life?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that you would take the money and then kill me. So in this hypothetical, I can see into your brain, into the brain of the person who's hypothetically there.
That lying could save someone.
Yeah, and if you're steeped in sin, you're likely to live in circumstances like that.
I'll give you an example. If you're in Nazi Germany, and it is the case that there's Jewish people in your attic, and you're trying to protect them, would you lie to the Nazis?
I would have done everything I bloody well could, so I wouldn't be in that situation to begin with. It's a hypothetical, and it's not answerable.
Hypotheticals?
Pause it.
No,
I'm sorry, but that is a pretty insane thing that he just said. He said that he basically, in a roundabout way, blamed people who were captured by the Nazis for their own behavior. I wouldn't be in that situation.
No. He blamed the people who didn't anticipate that the people who tried to hide Anne Frank, they didn't have enough forethought.
And I'm sorry, I can't hide you or lie for you because the die has been cast long ago. There's nothing we can do anymore.
No, the problem is that family did not emigrate to the United States beforehand. And therefore, when Dan Frank's family would show up at the house, no one would be there.
I've been living
and
in
they would
sin.
be able to live in the attic without anybody there. And so when the Nazis came in, they'd say, who's here? No one was there. And they would go to the next house.
This kid's 24 years old.
I like
Stop tying me up in pretzels, you little shit.
I know the example, and I'm bloody pissed that you brought it up.
I know it. I believe me.
Isn't this also, Tim Pool would really appreciate this deontological answer where it's so immoral to lie, right? But it's not, you don't have to think, it's only viewing the action as moral or immoral in and of itself and not the consequences of it.
Oh, what does consequence mean?
Yeah.
Answer a hypothetical like that because I've done everything I bloody well could, so I wouldn't be in that situation to begin with.
Yikes.
It's a hypothetical, and it's not answerable.
Hypotheticals?
No, I can't answer a hypothetical like that because
Did
it's
you eat
far. Look, don't play games.
I'm not playing games. I'm just asking if you ate it.
If you present me with an intractable moral choice that's stripped of context and you back me into a corner, you're playing game. I just told you I would do everything that I could to make sure that I'm never in that situation. By the time you've got there, you've made so many mistakes that there's nothing.
I would just grind my way out of the
First off, you should not have voted for Hitler.
Yeah.
That's number one.
I would transcend it.
Number two, you should not make the people think that you might be willing to hide Anne Frank. That's why they come. If you leave milk out for a kitty cat, it's going to come back.
you can do that isn't a sin.
Being born in Nazi Germany and trying to protect people that you care about, like there could be a Jewish friend that you have and you want to protect them.
I think you should
have
just
them in
give
your
up on
attic.
that line of questioning.
Yes, there's
up on
no
just, like,
way
trying to
I would
clarify
have a Jew as a friend. I would never do that.
I would never.
Because that is what I'm saying. I would have done everything possible before that moment. And by not having any Jewish friends, by appearing somewhat hostile to the Jews, and Frank's family would have never come. I rest my case. Move on, bucko.
Because you
I
don't
did
like, are you like
clarify.
uncomfortable with me asking this question? It's just a basic hypothetical. Like I could ask you.
It's just a basic hypothetical where you put Jews' lives at stake in Nazi Germany. That's just a basic hypothetical.
Obviously, you would lie in that scenario to save their life, but you're like not trying to answer this question for some reason.
I just told you why.
Are you anti-fascist? Like, so you're
Why
anti-fascist?
are you asking that?
I was just asking, just clarifying. But like, okay, again, you're not answering this hypothetical because you know.
Well, he asked that because you said you wouldn't do anything in Nazi Germany.
And you also seemingly in a
No,
roundabout.
no, I would have, if I was, now, okay, there you go. If I lived at that time, I would have prevented Hitler's rise to power. That's what I'm saying. So I would have never had to hide Anne Frank because I would have prevented all of World War II from happening.
Are you asking that?
I was just asking, just clarifying. But like, okay, again, you're not answering this hypothetical because you know it shows that you clearly would lie to save
I'm
someone's life.
answering it in
Obviously,
a
that's
manner
not
you
what truth
don't
is.
find acceptable.
Obviously, because I care about truth.
I wouldn't be in that scenario.
Obviously, right? Logically, because that's
No.
already happened. Like that's in the past. You don't have a time travel device. We're bringing this logical hypothetical up to show you that in some circumstances that do happen within the real world, you would lie to save people's lives. So your definition of truth isn't actually how we're typically using it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to muddy the waters. When I ask you, like, do you believe this? Do you think this to be true?
We could probably cut it there because he eventually is like, okay, fine. Like,
Well, they run out of time, basically.
Should
Yeah.
we get to that, or we can just say that he does
What does he say? Fine to? I believe in God.
I would no. He says that I would tell a lie, and then they move on. They don't.
But,
they don't even get back to the
you
original
never
point.
get back to the original point.
No.
Do you believe in God?
It's only like 30 more seconds.
Like,
feel
I just don't
Yeah.
understand how it got, like, who set this up? Did nobody tell? Honestly, this whole thing is like, wait a second. 1 second I'm in IHOP having a meal with my daughter, and all of a sudden there's 20 atheists surrounding me. All I asked for was the bill. And then all of a sudden everyone's peppering me with questions. What's going on here?
So you don't actually have to answer the questions. And plenty of Christians don't like that because they clearly see that you don't really like want to be associated with
I can
Christianity.
imagine that I was in a situation where the best I could do as a consequence of my previous mistakes was to tell the least amount of lie I could manage. But that would likely indicate that I had made all sorts of catastrophic errors on my way there.
So you would lie to save someone's life. So again, you do believe it to be true in that circumstance, even though you like lied in that scenario. So
Not
clearly that's
without
not what
the
you see to be true.
context that I put it in.
You were not willing to
I
die for it.
said-
You were not willing to let other people die for it. So that's not what you see to be true then, seemingly.
You're doing exactly what I said you were doing at the beginning of the conversation. You're generating an impossible, restricted, hypothetical with no precursors to back me into a
How's
corner.
it possible? Is there something contradictory about it? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Yeah, he's seething. It's not a hypothetical if it has happened in history, let alone in the past 100 years.
But
it's definitionally not hypothetical.
I'm sorry. Like, if something to qualify as something you believe in is something you would die for, has no one ever questioned Jordan Peterson's beliefs because he's still alive? Like, I don't understand. Are there no circumstances like you would die for? Why didn't he attempt to kill or be killed when he was fired? I believe this is the right thing to do, and I'm going to kill myself if I have to, if I am beholden to completely made up rules about identifying people's pronouns. I'm going to kill myself because I disagree with it.
Self-immolation.
I don't believe in using the pronoun that people choose to have used. And so I will die on that hill, literally. I mean,
But again, it's all because he can't just say, yes, I believe in God. He has to say, what do you mean by believe? What do you mean by God?
Or say, no, I don't believe in God.
Why?
Then he stopped selling out tours.
Why? Oh, okay.
Oh, that's why.
That's
why. But why would he stop selling out tours?
Because the people that go are Christians.
Oh yes, but then why not go full Russell Brand?
I
go
refuse
baptize yourself.
to tell a lie, young lady.
Because fundamentally, he condescends to those. It's the same thing as Ben Shapiro. Like he'll feed the slop out, but he's not going to eat it himself.
And I love, like, it's a really good hallmark of, like, what conservative morality is, or, like, what their ethics are, even if it's outside of religion, where they claim it's all, like, their individual virtue as they perceive it, and there's always holes in it. But, like, he really, I shouldn't use the word belief, because then I would have to die.
What do you mean by that? Would you kill somebody for it right now?
Right, but it's always just like my principles, like my actions in and of themselves are moral. And then when you get a little bit complicated about it, they can't even apply their own analysis to real life situations. That would be a hypothetical.
This clip is the most bizarre one, because it's clear that everyone there was under the impression they were going to debate a Christian.
Yes. Yes.
And for the first 4 hours that this video was up, it said Christian versus 20 atheists. Now, and also, like, I don't know when they recorded this. I know the lag time on mine was like 5 or 6 weeks, right? I mean, it was like the end of January, and it came out like in like the first week or so of March. And what is it about Jordan Peterson that he would have a debate with atheists about if he wasn't?
If you can't identify him as anything other than Jordan Peterson.
No, I guess you could just say, believer in God versus 20 atheists.
But he would take exception of that. What do you mean by believe in God?
Then why agree to this is the question.
Well, that's the strangest. That's why. And this poor kid who's debating him, and Peterson, like, basically shows up and go, oh, no, I've actually just been teleported here. I'm not. I mean, it's almost like Freaky Friday, where it's where Jordan Peterson shows up, but it's just his body, and it's actually some other person.
I've been body swapped with somebody.
I've been body swapped. I didn't know about this. I didn't prepare for this at all. I'm only 7. Good.
Danny, nice to meet you.
What's your name?
Danny.
Danny.
You're saying atheists worship things or people or places, whatever. Can you be very clear about your definition of worship again?
Attend to, prioritize, and sacrifice for.
Okay, that's it. That's your understanding of worship.
Well, I could flesh it out, but that'll do for the time we have.
Okay. Do Catholics attend to Mary?
Well, yes.
Okay. So do they fit that description of worship?
Yes.
So you would say Catholics and other people that revere Mary, like the Eastern Orthodox tradition, worship Mary.
Well, they might not put her in the highest
But
place.
you would put it that way.
No.
You just said it. Now you're taking it back.
There's
now?
still a hierarchy.
Okay, there's a hierarchy, but within the
There's something at the top.
All right, you can worship things
Mary is
below.
quite a ways up the hierarchy, but not at the top.
Let's go over your definition of worship again. What's your definition of worship?
Attend to.
Attend to.
Prioritize.
Do Catholics
sacrifice for.
What do Catholics attend to? Do they prioritize Mary over all other human beings?
No, I didn't say overall, did I? I didn't add that to my definition.
You understand.
I said there was a hierarchy as well.
You attend to
So you can attend to something trivially, or you can attend to it deeply.
Okay, now you're adding stuff to the definition, but your original definition.
I added the hierarchy part at the beginning.
Are you familiar?
Just didn't understand it.
Are you familiar with the Immaculate Conception?
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure.
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
Somewhat.
Okay. You're
Their
familiar.
doctrines are very
how do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either you're a
because
Christian
I won't
or you're
talk
not.
to you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression I was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing, right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Bravo on the quick wit on that kid to turn that phrase around on him. Oh my goodness. You're really quite nothing, aren't you?
I just don't understand. Like what was it he didn't want to? I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure I followed what the debate was about there. And it just seemed to get short-circuited.
Because Mary is like the mother of Jesus, as opposed to Jesus, who's, or God, who you're supposed to be worshiping at the top of the hierarchy, I think is maybe what he was alluding to.
But I think the point is that Peterson is making an argument that atheists are also worship a God. It's just they don't refer to it as a God.
Yeah.
Because they have some guiding principle, but I'm just guessing. I mean, I also think that's sort of like what if anything you worship is a God in that instance, it really has to do with what he said in terms of like what Peterson himself said about prioritizing and where they sit upon like their ability to impact the world. There's a difference between a God that you think is all-knowing and all-controlling, or has set up. I mean, different people have different theologies, but if you call everything a God, then yes, nobody's an atheist.
But Catholics would not say that they would not say that they worship Mary, right? So that's why, like, they may believe. Matt, you can talk about it.
I mean, I don't know.
But I mean, I did a little research.
All I know
before.
is that
the
Knicks are your God.
I think all he was doing was trying to get Jordan Peterson into the murky waters of the fantastical things about religion that Jordan Peterson definitely does not literally believe in the sense that, in the common sense of the word belief. And when Jordan Peterson could sense that, and that's why he got really sort of leery about even being called a Christian. Because Jordan Peterson, like I said, does not believe the way that, people you might know who are religious, that there's a God sitting there ready to pass your judgment on you, your soul, when you die. He doesn't believe in that.
Right. Worship in Catholicism, is my understanding, it's supposed to just be for one God, for the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, right? And that there's Mary, there's John, there's saints and all that. But that you're not supposed to worship them or put them over God, which is part of what he's. I mean,
Catholics definitely do love Mary. My grandma has a Mary statue down the hall. It freaks me out every time I, was staying over there to get up and go to the bathroom.
Okay, but I'm just trying to clarify, just because the internet says that you're not supposed to worship Mary, so that's just at the very least.
Well, I don't know about. I mean, I have no.
Well, is it worshiping her if you put a small statue of her down at the end of the hall in front of a mirror?
What was his contention? That, like, do we have his, like, what his claim was? I mean, that's the bizarre thing about it is it feels like what happened is that, there was a little bit of back and forth in my instance. I imagine this is the same process. Like, at one point they said, do you want to debate libertarians? And I was like, well, I do that on my show, and they don't seem to be terribly relevant right now. I said, I would just rather debate conservatives. And they may have said, like, do you want a Democratic and Republicans? And I'm like, no, I want to talk more about specific sort of policies. I suspect maybe what happened with Peterson is they couldn't come up with a thing that he was willing to argue. And that they may have just deferred to this sort of like, I'll talk to atheists because they're wrong. They don't realize that they're actually godly worshiping. And there was no way for the Jubilee people to sort of say, like, pedantic guy, debates atheists.
I think they explicitly told all those kids there that they were going to be debating a Christian. And,
without a doubt.
Yeah, and so Jordan Peterson, and that's what they labeled the video, like we said before it, and they had to change it because of this exact exchange where Jordan Peterson, out of fear of like being definite about anything, retreats from the label of Christian.
I just wanted to come in and tell these kids they didn't know what they were believing. I mean, because they weren't dying for it.
But isn't that such a tell? Like, this is where I don't, like, people's media literacy, or like when people listen to a guy like Jordan Peterson, honestly, I felt this way during the Ezra Klein debate. When you're not, like, basically, you're dancing around everything, or you're not specific when asked direct questions, shouldn't that set off alarm bells for anybody that, like, wants a coherent argument that's given to them? Because for me, I hear that guy go either lunatic or complete snake oil salesman. One of the two.
I'm sort of just a little bit floored by it, by how sort of
unprepared he was.
Well, I think it honestly was just like, I'm going to come in there and the atheists don't exist. And therefore...
You're actually a religious believer. Me? You can't say what I am.
But the strangest thing is for him to set up this sort of like a belief is defined by whether you would die for something. And not a single person in that room, I would say, if you had said to him, like, do you believe in God? And they would say, no, I do not. They're all alive, and they're not... They're clearly alive because they don't believe in God. Yeah. If they believed in God and said that they didn't, then they would have to fight to the death for it to actually be a belief. I mean, by his own definition in terms of what constitutes a belief. But I think his argument must be that if you really like something, that everybody has something that they treat as a God. But I just don't think that's even remotely the case.
Pitiful. That's if you can be impressed by that, the whole like, oh well, you have to have some relationship with a transcendent that comes after you. That means you believe in God. Like that is just that again. That's pedantry and semantic fudging. Whereas you talk to somebody who believes in God, they think Jesus actually was put on the cross. In my family, was put on the cross, died for their sins. I don't believe any of this stuff, but that stuff literally happened. Jordan Peterson, I'd be curious to hear him talk about the historicity of Jesus and see where he agrees with that. I think he would probably give you an answer like this, where he's not really, what do you mean by historicity? What do you mean by this? Because he doesn't want to say that because he'll stop selling tickets.
What there is, I wonder if there isn't some parallel too between, and again, I'm, who knows what Peterson was actually trying to argue here, but the idea that Ann Coulter had a book about this at one point where liberals have a religion. It's just called civics. And they have made government a religion. And
cool. Civics is better than Christianity.
Civics is my religion, actually. Yeah.
But the point is that civics are actually sort of mutable by some form of shared, understanding, voting, referendum, representation. Civic life can evolve in a way that is not locked off.
It's a social endeavor.
It's a social endeavor. Religion, as far as I can tell, is a function of a deity having the final say on some level. And, different people have different interpretations of what that deity is, and there's rivalries within the context of that. But there is no sort of deity in the context of a civic religion. There are documents, there are charters and constitutions, and, that may function similar to a Bible, but they can be amended by humans in a way that the Bible theoretically, by I think believers don't believe can be. I think that's the point. You can have commentary, but you can't change what the Bible.
What do you mean by commentary, Sam? I think this is a significant problem for Peterson. I think he's being eclipsed on the religious front by people like Russell Brand. I think his type of intellectual religiosity, I don't think people have time for it anymore. I think the sun's setting on it.
I mean, even Ben Shapiro, it's not religiosity, but the kind of like conservative wonkishness thing, or like whatever, this veneer of intellectualism is completely out the window. And wasn't he a Daily Wire pickup?
But also,
right? Like with their bankruptcy, how does that affect Jordan Peters, or not bankruptcy, with them losing that money, how does that affect Jordan Peterson's employment? Right.
I also think that in terms of like just where the zeitgeist is, you know, theoretically he won, right? Like he was able to defeat the trans agenda, and you can say the R word now, so you no longer have to make your bed because boys have been saved. It's a boys' world again.
The making the bed thing is funny because, ironically, the number one political streamer on the right is a guy who clearly does not make his bed and probably has a hoarding problem.
Right, that guy Asmongold, who I don't know anything about except that, like, what, he shits himself or something?
I don't know about that. I've seen a picture of his. I've seen a picture of his room, and it doesn't appear like he likes to take out the garbage.
Oh, the roach that came across his screen. Yeah. That's so. But anyway, it's interesting that a guy like that would be appealing to the right in this way. I don't know. I don't understand this Twitch streamer space anymore.
Well, there's Jordan Peterson. I don't know if we'll get we got to dig into more of it. It just got released yesterday, right?
I got to say that I watched the whole thing, and those are the two best moments. The rest is kind of why I don't run in atheist circles a little bit, because a lot of the debates seem really pointless and abstruse. The only time that's fun is when they're accusing him of not actually believing God, which is it's the right angle of attack.
It's such a weird one to do, because I don't associate him with like being a big, like Christian forward guy.
I don't know. All his lectures are all on the Bible stuff. I think that's he gained a big audience doing that.
There's always these ancient truths, right? Like that's what he's always talking about.
Adam and Eve.
Oh yes.
This is what we would call in Massachusetts dawn lighting on Marblehead. Marblehead, Mass, of course, on the water, and this is where I think it's like one of the first places in the country where you can actually see the sun rise.
Are you calling Ben Shapiro Marblehead?
I'm calling Ben Shapiro in this instance just about to see the light. Now, this is going to come as a shock to people. Ben has what is a very controversial perspective on what he's seeing from the Trump presidency. And people, sit yourself down, because you're about to get truth bombed by Ben Shapiro here. Now, one wonders if this is really like, if Ben's just finding out for the first time, or if there are other things that Trump is doing that Ben has a little bit of a problem with.
Many of the organizations that Donald Trump Jr. is connected to are making an enormous amount of money during this period of time when his father is president, which raises awkward questions, certainly, about Trump administration policy, ranging from Trump meme coin to World Liberty Financial to gigantic real estate deals in Qatar. None of this is an amazingly good look.
It's not a good look, okay?
It's not a good look. What do you mean by not a good look?
Yeah, expand on that.
The optics are very bad about all of this incredible. Donald Trump has made 60% of his fortune in the past 6 months or something?
Seems like a great look to me, Ben.
Seems like a bad look.
It's a bad look. Take a look at my bank account. My crypto wallet.
Interesting that he threw in the Qatar thing. It's almost as if there are problems that Shapiro has with what Trump is doing that are a little bit just off the notion of enriching himself. He's made literally, what was it, $3 or $4 billion off that pump and dump crap coin?
Right, the meme. It was like I think like 400 million or something like that.
400 million was the jet, supposedly. that was actually being,
gosh.
Foisted onto Trump. Apparently, that jet, the Qataris, have decommissioned for like 2 or 3 years, and they needed to get rid of it because of the maintenance. Honestly,
I got a Camry I can give Trump.
But I think Ben is upset because he's like concerned about stuff like, I don't know if you saw this coming, but Hamas agreeing to a truce with Witkoff, and the Trump people are not paying the proper homage to. They're not doing anything, but they're not paying the proper respect to Netanyahu.
Wait, the Qataris have a lot of money?
And now all of a sudden, Ben Shapiro is like, I wonder if Trump is like, there's a bad look. It seems like he's trying to enrich himself.
He's in trouble too because Candace Owens, who they let go because of her, none of her previous anti-Semitism mattered, including her saying that Hitler's problem was that he was expansionist.
Keep it in the borders, Hitler.
That he just went outside of Germany to do the Holocaust. That didn't bother Ben Shapiro, but when she started speaking out against Israel,
which was right about the time her contract was up.
Yeah, they parted ways, but since then she's been alluding to it being like not necessarily the best breakup, and she's probably under an NDA, but they also let go of Brett Cooper at that time, whose contract expired, and now there's news about them being in financial trouble. He's in a position where I wouldn't be shocked if his viewership is down. Like Candace Owens is through the roof, and she's like just doing straight up anti-Semitism in many instances. And
she said the problem with the USSR was all the Jews.
Right. And so like
that's why things have improved so much since they all moved out.
Now Ben Shapiro's Jewishness is becoming maybe a bit of a problem with an increasingly anti-Semitic audience. Because like as we're seeing anti-Israel sentiment rise amongst voters who lean Democrat and who are Democrats, it's also rising amongst young Republicans. And I don't necessarily have faith that those viewpoints are steeped in humanism.
Yeah, they're going Candace mode.
That they aren't taking wholesale the conflation of Zionism and Judaism by the entire Republican Party and many people in the Democratic Party, because why wouldn't they?
They're certainly taking advantage of it.
I mean, and this is just gives them an opportunity to express how they've always felt about Jewish people. And there's plenty of outlets that can give them that kind of content. And so what's Ben Shapiro going to do here? Is he going to try to differentiate himself and become an enlightened centrist in the Trump era? Are we going to see that reverse? I don't know. But
I am joining the bulwark.
Yeah.
And I wanted to...
You are now being valuetained.
Let everybody know. Ben's Talk. That's my new show on valuetainment.
See you at Casa. What's the restaurant they always go to? Casa d'Amelio or whatever PBD's always talking about.
I have
Casa
no idea.
Check out R.M. Brown was on Tim Heidecker's show talking about how PBD likes to go to Casa D'Angelo and mentions it about 500 times in the show.
There is no doubt in my mind. Definitely, like announced sponsorship type of arrangement. Is my phone thing working? In a moment, ladies and gentlemen, just in a moment, I will turn on the phone machine. The number, of course, 646-257-3920. 646-257-3920 is the number. We have a special hotline for conservatives or libertarians, and that number is 646-257-3920. You can reach us there. The sound you're about to hear means that I have now called into the phones, and the voicemail is now off. Drew from Illinois, could you guys see Benny Shapiro turn into conservative centrist? I would like him looking to join. I could see him looking to join forces with those people. I don't know. They could be trolling around. I mean, they're looking at the next 3 or 4 years and figuring out what they're doing. Now, wasn't there a report that he was, I don't know if it was like Semaphore or Axios or something, that he was at some conference looking for money They have a new business plan.
I didn't see that.
Milk billionaires.
It's an interesting plan. Let's go to the phones. Calling from a 661 area code. 661. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, is this me?
Yes, it is you. Where are you calling from?
Hey, yeah, I'm calling from. My name's Dylan. I'm calling from Ferndale, California.
Okay, are you in what kind of headset situation you have?
Oh, I got earbuds on.
Yeah, those stink. Incidentally, I don't
man.
know why people don't tell you this when you call them, but I can hear that door more than I can hear you.
And why doesn't Apple give you the option to just listen in your AirPods and then speak into the speaker for the phone? Right? Okay. Anyway.
I'd imagine. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, guys. Is this unlistenable? Should I?
Well, just to hold your hand over your one of your ears. Tell us quickly what your comment is.
Oh, okay. Well, hold on. I can.
Oh, that helps.
change this.
Yep, that's better.
Okay, if that's better. Great.
How much?
Yeah, I'm actually calling because recently, but there's been a lot of conversation about, I guess in general, just the age of senators and presidents and how that's affecting them cognitively or in their relationship to people's problems.
Yes.
And I know that there was a joint resolution a couple of years ago put into Congress to have some kind of age limit. I think if it was you're serving your term and you turn 70, something like that. But I mean, that you wouldn't be able to run. But I think that died on the floor. I didn't know if there was any other precedent for policies like that to be passed, or if it has really any legs to get passed, considering that most of the people serving in Congress or in the Senate are, septuagenarians, octogenarians.
I don't think that there's any movement in there to push for some type of age limit. And here's the other thing. Like something like 80% of all the people over the age of 80 who have run for re-election get reelected. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is a problem with the voters too. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Now maybe, hopefully, people are a little more sensitive to it. But how do people reelect Dianne Feinstein? I mean, the problem is also with the voters. Sad to say.
But who was primarying Dianne Feinstein at that time?
Oh, there was a bunch of people.
I'm forgetting.
Half a dozen, I feel like. But yeah, I don't think they're not going to impose it on themselves.
Kevin De Leon, right? I mean, I remember that. Yeah, but the party's also
that was in the general.
Oh, right, but there was a
primary.
jungle primary.
Yeah,
but the voters don't always the voters are not empowered enough to make these decisions because the party's putting up these incumbents constantly.
California is a jungle. I mean, there was a half a dozen people that they could have chosen.
But the initial the upfront cost is not conducive to getting just your regular challengers in there.
I don't necessarily love term limits or age limits. Just I want Bernie to still be in power. I think that's really important. But there needs to be more Democratic input in the Democratic Party. That's where I'm at here.
Dave from Jamaica, age test not needed. A cognition test. Look at Fetterman, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that makes more sense, and it's probably more likely that you would get Congress to impose a cognition test on itself than an age test.
Yeah. Fetterman wasn't even showing up to votes until that New York magazine piece came out. That's unacceptable.
No,
it's unacceptable.
Well, there should be a lot more transparency about it too, so that it's easier for people to report on, frankly, in that instance. Calling from a 224 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? And then we got to do some more sound. Yeah.
Hey there, JJ calling from Chicago.
JJ from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Okay, I got a kind of convoluted question for you.
Okay.
So, the Democrats, they just got rid of that David Hogg guy, right? And and they're saying, no, we're not going to change it all, kind of saying what the last guy was saying. And
is it
you know,
official
I
that they got rid of him? Okay, so no, June vote, still haven't voted yet. So it's not official
Oh, well,
yet.
you know what they're saying, though. They're saying, hey, we don't want to change whatever.
We'll see what happens.
I
yeah.
watch I watch political infotainment all day, every day for the last however long, my whole life. I voted in every politics thing I can. I've never had an impact whatsoever on politics, nor can I say I could impact politics. So my question is, what are we doing to change that? And I know this was kind of the goal all along, was to get people out of politics. But, like, what's the future look like?
That's a broad. I'm not 100% sure I fully understand.
Okay.
What is belief? What do you mean by what do you mean by future?
Should we be using parasocial relationships to help with politics, or is that too much of a slippery slope, and will it be used for evil?
I mean,
like Twitch.
I don't think you can, frankly.
Listen, I think organizing and getting involved with activism, you may not have an impact every time you do something like that, but over the long term, I think there is an impact. I don't know that you're going to be able to say, like, this happened because of me. I think you have to just sort of believe that that it's going to have an impact at one point. I don't think parasocial relationships are helpful. I mean, I think people listen to this program to get information, to get entertained, and then they need to do something with that information. And hopefully the entertainment aspect of it, makes their day a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
But you need to do stuff with the information that we provide here and act upon it. I don't think just listening to a show or watching a show is going to do anything. Of course not.
I would recommend for folks on this topic, Amberly Frost, The Poison Chalice of #activism from Catalyst. But what needs to happen and what a bright future would look like is more people doing what like the Philly Whole Foods union workers are doing, which is not parasocial, which is directly social. Get involved with your coworkers and help them collectively as a group organize politically. That's what this can be done. What you can do as an individual is link up with a larger collective and resist.
The value that we provide is only insofar as like having people like that on to allow people in their own workplace to realize like, oh, maybe this isn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, or this is like, here's a recipe, just to sort of make it clear that this is not, these type of, whether it was in Starbucks or in Trader Joe's or at Whole Foods, it's not, people who are doing this are not, magicians. They're not, they don't have to take, they haven't, gotten a doctorate in any of this stuff. I mean, I think that's the value that we provide, and I think that's about as far as it goes. And then occasionally we're entertaining.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the call.
Also, we can raise Steven Crowder's heart rate.
Oh, and then the other thing is that, yes, we make some people feel very badly about themselves. That's the other part. That's the fun part.
The ridicule.
Yes, exactly. That's the important thing. Yes.
All right, here. I'm sorry.
We're going to do some of these.
Yes, while we're here. Mystery East Emma, Bernie can't be in public without declaring Israel's right to defend itself. He may have once been worthy, but now it's time to force old dogs to get some rest. I think if Bernie Sanders has been the best senator in the United States Senate on the issue of Israel-Palestine, it's not adequate. The idea that we would be better off without having his voice in the Senate is extremely myopic, and I hope you reconsider how politics is viewed by a majority of people in this country, a country of hundreds of millions of people.
Wait, who said that?
The last I just saw it. It just came up. I mean, I'm sorry. I really, I know we have someone on the line, but I really don't like people calling Bernie Sanders a Zionist on the internet. I don't. Sure, that every one of our politicians, with the exception of like Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar or something like that, is basically going to be a Zionist because the Israel Project is so connected to the United States. I don't like the undertones of how Bernie Sanders is talked about in that instance. In the institution of the Senate, he's combating Israel right now. We should be building on that, not trying to undercut him right now.
I think it's easy enough to say like he shouldn't be placing the blame all on Netanyahu, and also saying, like you did, he's the best senator on the issue.
Calling from a 518 area code. Who's this? Where you calling from?
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, this is Chris from Gloversville, New York, in the upstate Adirondack region.
Chris from the upstate Adirondack region of New York. What's on your mind?
So I've been meaning to call because every time you guys talk about my representative, at least Stefanik, I get nice and giddy about it. I think because I've seen a bunch of times on like MSNBC, and you guys talk about like, you know, the Democratic swing that's going on, which I would like to see. It's really hard to believe that like up here, you know, up in the Adirondacks here, that the swing's going to even manifest, because the only way that she could even lose is if Constantino, who is was going to run for her seat before she got the boot from the UN, and I don't think there's no Democratic Party or DSA, you know, type of scene up here. It's completely barren, and it's going to be an uphill battle.
Well, it sounds like you have an open lane to build something there.
Yeah, I mean, like there's opportunities, but again, like the area is so rural, it's so, you know, very Trump-esque. It's going to be a hard battle. Like when you guys talk about like the Democrats needing to expand their operations into areas like that, I totally agree, because again, this hasn't been probably even close to sniffing like a Democratic president since like the Clinton era. So hopefully we can kind of start to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, you got like a Agway up there, a tractor factory?
Tractor factory? No. A lot of like distribution centers up here. A lot of different companies up here that like are based right off the freeway, like Target, Walmart. They got a lot of different. Amazon's building one, I believe. You know. So.
Well, it seems to me like if you got a place where farmers are going maybe for some of their product or whatnot, something on a bulletin board occasionally, just like there's stuff you can do. Even if it's something like, for farmers who are suffering under the Trump tariff regime, here's a resource.
Right.
Just like, the stuff that looks like very non-confrontational.
Helping them. Yeah.
Is a good way, I think, to sort of like, I don't know, start stuff like that. That's my sense. But, somebody's got to do it. You're up there, dude.
Appreciate it, guys. You're awesome.
Thanks
That's the best.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
I worked at a place called Bartley's Burgers in Harvard Square. And Mr. B, who was alive at that time, put up a sign. This was like in 91. He clipped out something from like the Cambridge newspaper that said, people in Harvard Square happy to have jobs because the economy, there was a recession. And so the next day I put up a flyer next to it. Because of the recession, people in Harvard Square are starting to think about unionizing for their... he was not happy with that.
Did he know it was you?
Yeah, he knew it was me.
Oh.
I knew. I just didn't like the idea. Like, I mean, the guy was obviously trying to make us all thankful that we had these.
Be grateful.
Be grateful that we had the job. And really, you organized to protect yourself from that. They fired me. But
yeah.
Yep. All All right, let's do a couple of Charlie Kirks. Oh, what's this?
I think we should save Kirk since we did the Peterson.
Okay,
today.
what is this? Trump. This is Trump's. Where was this speech?
This is number 4.
Oh, he's at the Arlington Cemetery. Oh, well, I'm sure he was extremely showed an extreme deference to the people who served in the military and passed away or were killed. Obviously,
I like
passed
troops
away.
that don't get captured.
Yes,
Or that get killed.
Sacrifices they offer. Only the faintest.
Oh, pause it for a
glimpse at
second.
the
I'm sorry, I'm confused. What are those devices? What are those devices on either side of him?
The Obama cheaters.
Are those sun reflectors? Is he getting a tan? What is that?
I
Can
mean,
someone help me out there? Can you, I don't understand what that is. Those couldn't be teleprompters, could they?
ultimate sacrifices they offer. Only the faintest glimpse at the infinite grace we have received from all who laid down their lives for America over the past 250 years. We're going to have a big celebration, as you know, 250 years. In some ways, I'm glad I missed that second term where it was, because I wouldn't be your president. For that most important of all, in addition, we have the World Cup and we have the Olympics. Can you imagine? I missed that 4 years, and now look what I have. I have everything. Amazing the way things work out.
Pause for a second. Okay. This is, just to be clear, this is Memorial Day. He is at the Arlington Cemetery, so bored with that speech, where he's got to read it off the thing.
It's a bit of a bummer, this
And then,
speech.
wait a second, did someone actually, something reminded me of me. And then, and look how animated I become at this point. It's a great time for me. It's a great time for me. I'm not dead. I'm still here. I'm alive.
Oh, they're
I'm
soldiers.
alive. Oh, and I got the World Cup
coming
I'm
up.
going to be able to go to that. And I'm going to be able to have the Army's 250th birthday falls on my birthday. That's right. They're lucky. So, wait, what were we talking about before? Oh, yes. Okay, people died.
Oh, yeah, dead soldiers.
Go ahead, go back. I mean, it's just amazing to watch him, like, so bored with his frickin' speech.
What does he call this? The weave?
Yes, the
The bob and the weave.
You know, 250 years. In some ways, I'm glad I missed that second term where it was, because I wouldn't be your president. For that most important of all, in addition, we have the World Cup and we have the Olympics. Can you imagine? I missed that 4 years, and now look what I have. I have everything. Amazing the way things work out.
I'm great.
I have the Olympics.
God did that. I believe that too.
Okay. I knew it. I was about to say he's like gotten like a little bit of the magical thinking about his birthday falling on the 250th anniversary.
It's not magic. It's God.
He is the most, I think he believes in God more than Jordan Peterson. He's the most self-centered believer in the history of Christianity.
And it's crazy because there have been reports that he bought into the stuff about the assassination attempt.
Of course
that
he
God
did.
saved him.
God works in mysterious ways, redirecting that bullet straight into that fireman.
But it's
God wants me to pay homage to him by leading my best life.
And doing Trump coin.
It's so holy.
God always said, put your face on a coin. That's what the people did.
What did they say about the money changers?
God loves you.
God did that. I believe that too.
Suckers.
I believe that too.
Now I do.
And God killed every one of the people buried here.
Look at me believing in
God killed every one of the buried. They're all buried here because God wanted it that way.
But not
he
me.
wanted me to live.
God didn't
And
want you.
also to get great seats at the World Cup.
Yeah. God did not invite you to our 250th birthday party.
No. You all had to die so that I could be here and celebrate.
You know, I got the World Cup and I got the Olympics. The 250 years was not mine. I'd like to take credit for it. But I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup when I was president. And I said, boy, it's too bad I won't be president then. And look what happened. I turned out, and we're going to have a great time. We're going to have a great celebration. But most important of all is the 250th anniversary. That
Sure.
Oh, because that's incidentally falling on his birthday.
It is.
So they're going to combine the thing. Wait. Let's see. I want to continue to hear this. If he ever gets back to like, oh, yeah, it's Memorial Day.
Oh, yeah, sacrifice.
Oh, yeah, people died.
We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a great celebration. But most important of all is the 250th anniversary. That blows everything away, including the World Cup and including the Olympics, as far as I'm concerned. In any corner of this cemetery, in any resting place for our war dead, anywhere on earth, you'll find untold stories of equal heroism and heartbreak unmatched, patriotism and devotion and acts of selflessness and courage so enormous they defy comprehension. Most people can't even imagine it.
That's what that word means. I love how, like, after he gets to say his whole thing, he is slightly more interested in the speech. But then I have to dive because people don't know incomprehensible. What are they? Oh, yeah, this is in the wake of 9/11. Not the wake. I mean,
the day.
I'm sorry. The day of.
It's still smoldering.
As it's still smoldering, Trump's reaction, people may not remember this. I mean, people may not have been old enough to know. But Trump's on the phone being interviewed, and his response, what does 9/11 mean? Is it for the people who died? No, it is, guess where this place is? Trump Tower.
You have one of the landmark buildings down in the financial district, 40 Wall Street. Did you have any damage, or did you know what's happened down there?
Well, it was an amazing phone call I made. 40 Wall Street actually was the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan, and it was actually, before the World Trade Center, was the tallest. And then when they built the World Trade Center, it became known as the second tallest, and now it's the tallest.
And that's it. He's got the tallest building in Manhattan now, downtown Manhattan.
Sacrifices.
Real shame. Real shame what happened. Real shame. But now I've got the biggest one there. That's great.
You were a little too tall.
Just in case anybody's worried about what's going on down here, it's the biggest, tallest building.
Maybe if the tower was a little lower, the planes would have missed.
You might even call it the largest erection down there.
Oh, this show is really getting sophomoric. I got to put a fart noise on my.
No, you don't.
I need God did that as a.
God did that. God did that.
Didn't do a lot of the other stuff.
Let's go to another phone call. Calling from a 404 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is William from Canton, Georgia.
William from Canton, Georgia. What's on your mind?
Well, a couple days, first one little point and then a question. A couple days ago, you were talking about Trump's $1,000 baby bond.
We talked about it today as well.
Oh, and today, so I missed that part of the show. But anyway, just want to let you know that came from Vivek Ramaswamy on the, what is that show from the long show with the comedians who they all love. Dude with the mustache. Anyway, it came from that show.
I will say, listen, baby bonds, when done properly, are a good are a good thing, I think. But the way that this is structured, it really is just a giveaway to rich people to the extent that anybody's getting anything.
Right. The question I had, I kind of need you to talk me down, because I have this thing rattling around in my head that what people need to do, opponents to Republicans or MAGA people in debates, even interviewers, should be saying, the thing that you just said is not a true thing. And that means that either you're ignorant of the truth, which, we're all ignorant of some truths, that's fine. We can all learn things and be educated. Or you know the truth and you're like straight up lying. And those are the only two ways that you could be saying something that false. My feeling is that if you just kept hammering and hammering and hammering, eventually it would maybe not get through to them, but maybe get through to the people who pay attention to those sorts of people. And I feel like there's a flaw, and I know that you guys can find it. And
all right.
talk me out of this stupid idea.
Well, I mean, I think in the main, when you come across stuff that isn't true, you should debunk it. I don't know if I find that sometimes if you get too caught up in the intent of the other person, then it becomes too easy for them to deflect and go, "How dare you?"
Mm-hmm.
But it depends.
How dare you?
It depends on if you're.
What is truth?
And who's programming
What does truth mean?
It depends on who you're talking to, I really think. Like, I mean, if you're trying to convince somebody you think is gettable, it's much more advantageous for you to not take that kind of approach. But if you're like responding to a media member or something, or a piece of information they've received, I think you're right to take that tactic.
Mm.
Appreciate the call.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, let's finish with it. Take one more call and then we'll finish with that. Calling from a 619 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Anthony calling from Harlem.
Anthony, you're the final caller of the day.
Oh my God, my luck. So I actually was calling because I've been listening for a long time. Even though he's not a Christian, I think Jordan Peterson would say you're doing God's work. You guys are talking about genocide last week. It was Israel's genocide on Palestinians. And I actually wrote something for The Nation a while back that kind of expressed how my frustrations with the cognitive dissonance between like race and what's happening, and how the intent clause, which Israel has used to say they're not committing acts of genocide, is literally a thing because of lynching and white supremacy in the U.S. And it's been so frustrating for me, just as a black man and a black journalist, to watch the Democrats talk about race and how it's everywhere, except for in the case with how has helped aid the genocide against Palestinians. And so I thought I would like to share a little bit about that with your audience, because I felt you all would be receptive and hopefully
Please do. I want to hear it.
Resistance.
Yeah.
So the Genocide Convention, the intent clause in there literally comes from the U.S. So before so when the U.S. was negotiating the Genocide Convention, well, they had to figure out how can we come up with a definition of genocide that would make it impossible for Black Americans or even Native Americans to charge us with genocide. Because what had happened previously, there were civil rights groups. So, for example, the NAACP had actually reached out to the UN for redress with no luck. And so literally the U.S., there was a Senate hearing about the convention and whether or not the U.S. should be a part of it. And literally in this convention, you can like read it online, or in this hearing, they literally said the U.S. is responsible for the intent clause. And even when our State Department was negotiating with other UN members, the Netherlands said, hey, we have to be really careful about this intent clause because we have to protect against camouflage genocide. And part of the reason why, of course, the U.S. wanted it was because there had been a civil rights group had documented all of these examples of the U.S. government being complicit with the lynching and murder of Black Americans. And so that's why the U.S. said, hey, we need to have this intent clause in there. And it actually made it in. And one of the greatest ironies is that in order to be a party to the Genocide Convention, each state has to have a federal law against genocide. So we had to actually enact a federal law against genocide. And can you guess who the person is that made sure that happened? It was Joe Biden. So, like, how is it that Joe Biden got this done in like 1988 and knew why it took so long, which is because of, racism and lynching, but then talk about, America's original sin is white supremacy, but not see how it connects to how it's literally aiding what's happening to Palestinians.
I mean,
and I've been super frustrated.
At the start, this is such a great call. But at the start of his career, Joe Biden was in favor of, I think, a constitutional amendment to prevent busing. If I'm not correct, if I'm remembering correctly, that was the whole Kamala, that little girl was me speech.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very notable that also, I think, the tropes that have been used against both Indigenous Americans and Black Americans are regularly used against Palestinians, specifically the Screams Without Words front splash for the New York Times that had some, dubious reporting, and just the idea that they are they're inherently violent. It's a blend of the tropes that we use to justify the lynching of Black people and their subjugation, but also westward colonial expansion, where you talk about people being inherently uncivilized.
I would also say, we spoke with Ilan Pappy about Biden. He entered on the Foreign Relations Committee just in the wake of Fulbright leaving as the chair, getting primaried in Fulbright's telling of it by the Israel lobby. And I suspect that Biden was like, I'm never making that mistake again. But I will also say that, a lot of times you will see politicians do something like that as a way of trying to balancing out the positions they've had in the past. So just as an example, John McCain was the co-author of the McCain-Feingold campaign finance reform, which is since the Supreme Court. But the reason why he did that was because he was one of the Keating 5 or 7, I can't remember, where he basically took a lot of money from a guy involved in a savings and loan, and that thing went belly up. And so as a Reformation project, he went the other way. And so I think, you can't always look to a vote or an initiative as telling the full story. Where is that piece? Right. Is that the piece you wrote in the Nation magazine? What is the name of that piece?
Well, I think it's how the U.S. Watered down the Genocide Convention or something like that. I should totally know it since I wrote it, but I just can't remember it because it came out in February. And I totally get your point on, Biden and then the initiative. However, my only thing about that is this. If you're going to present yourself as someone who is so anti-white supremacy in the U.S. and not see how white supremacy in the U.S. has been used to annihilate Palestinians, I think that first of all, it's offensive, but then also the cognitive dissonance is it's crazy. And I get you have Democrats are well, what do we do with race now that we got our, we lost to Trump and all that? I just think you can't have it. You can't see it one way. You can't see it here and then not see it anywhere else.
But this is what we were saying.
What Beinart also said. Do you remember?
What?
Beinart
the
said,
myth. Yes.
He said, you can draw you can see a correlation between people who reject the 1619 project.
He said that the myth of America being a promised land founded on a hostile frontier, if you're more willing to challenge that myth, you're more willing to challenge the myth of Israel.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
I have a clip. Just think about the cognitive dissonance here. This is a clip of Joe Biden from 1986 talking about South Africa. And the reason people resist making this analogy is because we have a playbook about what to do with regimes like South Africa, and we don't want to run the plays right now.
But because he was a Johnny-come-lately at this point, right? Probably. Yeah.
Damn it, we have favorites in South Africa. The favorites in South Africa are the people who are being repressed by that ugly white regime. We have favorites. Our loyalty is not to South Africa, it's to South Africans. And the South Africans are majority black, and they are being excoriated. It is not to some stupid puppet government over there. It is not to the Afrikaners regime. We have no loyalty to them. We have no loyalty to South Africa, to South Africans.
Wow.
It's stuff like that. It's stuff like that that kills me. And then we have a Congressional Black Caucus that says they are the conscience of Congress or something like that. And it's like, but you are in the worst way. And all of you guys, and it's not because they're black, it's worse or anything. And it's not necessarily like Joe Biden. In particular, I've already been accused of bullying him in his old age and whatnot. But it's just, it's frustrating to watch people who anchor their sort of political existence in race, but then completely ignore or justify or call for a ceasefire, which is fine. I get it, but calling for a ceasefire and that be like your moral North Star is being like, I oppose slavery. Let's put a ban on lynching. It's like that doesn't actually address the totality of the violence. And so for you to use race and then to not go, there's actually a direct line between what we did here and what's happening to Palestinians is crazy.
Well, okay. The first 13 Democrats that called for a ceasefire were all people of color, all of them. And I remember noting that at the time. And, I think it's because we still don't have all the full data about what happened in this election, but we do know that the Democrats lost support with voters of color, particularly men and young people. And that would overlap very much with people seeing the brutality on their phones and some voters seeing their lived experience in how Palestinians are being treated. But I also think it's a line of demarcation with liberal thought and left-wing anti-colonial or anti-imperialist thought, where a more liberal sensibility is largely focused on domestic politics, but when it's not, it's often liberal interventionism. And Joe Biden encapsulated that. If you think about colonialism in a critical way and you have an understanding of how this country was actually formed, it's quite difficult for you to disaggregate positive feelings about Israel with from that understanding. And so I think that's part of the overlap, is people that actually aren't mystified or don't fetishize our system of government or what it meant to be a colonial nation. And there's a lot of, I think, white liberals that are not willing yet to engage in that analysis, but Palestine is making it more acceptable to do so.
It's wild that a lot of those liberals would previously have done things like land acknowledgements and stuff like that. What do they think it means?
Because that's domestically performative.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yes. And the land acknowledgement thing it actually perfectly captures what I was writing about. It's in the piece I just found it. It's how American racism sabotaged the world's fight against genocide. But those land acknowledgements are just perfectly encapsulate sort of the liberal mind, because it's an acknowledgement that hey, there was some violence that happened. And I'm going to acknowledge that violence, but I'm not actually going to talk about the current politics that still sustains that same exact violence. And so it's so wild. I used to work in education, and one time we did a land acknowledgement, and I looked at my boss and I said, so if you're acknowledging land was stolen, are you okay with the violence today if someone walked to you and said, I am willing to enact violence to get my land back? And then they're like, oh, well, no, that's, violence has no place in politics, when it's whoa, that's such a liberal thinking. And I totally understand that, but it so perfectly captures the avow to disavow to say, hey, now I've done my part. I've acknowledged a crime, but I'm not going to actually acknowledge the violence that currently sustains that same crime.
Yeah, are you happy with some symbolism? Because that's really all we're cooking right now.
Right.
It's also cowardice, too.
Right.
People are very able to disavow history when it's behind them or once there's like an understanding that's set. But, you know, if these past 2 years have been any indication, it's that never again was not something that we internalize as a society. So.
Right, exactly. Especially liberals now, and I get the sense to compare Trump to Nazis and World War II and the Third Reich and all that, and then also at the same time, like he's actually almost more Confederate. And by the way, like the Nazis based some of their laws of repression are based on our Jim Crow law. Yep. And I'm like, you know, if the liberal point of intervention is like the 1940s, then we've lost the plot. Like the problem is rooted in structures that, you know, not to make solely a black thing, but like that black people have been pointing out forever. And then liberals were like, oh my God, do you see this woke thing? It's so crazy. And now they're like, oh my God, our structures are under attack. They're not holding up. What do we do? This is like Hitler. And black folks are like, nah, this is like 1870, 1865. Like Trump is literally like antagonistic to all of the Reconstruction amendments. Like, so like, what are we doing here? Like, we have to at some point be able to look in a mirror and say, well, maybe our electoral college might be a problem. Let's deal with that instead of just jumping to, well, it's, you know, what's going on is, you know, the Gestapo and, you know, Nazi Germany. And it's like, well, no, we had fugitive slave laws that actually are more indicative of what's happening now. Yep. And so, I don't know. It's very liberal to kind of like, oh, well, it's us, not us. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, Anthony, we're going to link to your piece at majority.fm. Thank you so much for calling in.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Folks.
Thank you.
That signifies the end of our call-in portion of our program. And in fact, we've got to wrap things up quickly. 5 IMs, and then we're out of here. MI crew, someone from the New York DSA popped by the Discord, asked us to IM the show. They want to call in and give an update on their efforts to elect Zoran and an initiative involving proportional representation. Area code is 347. We will take the call tomorrow. Apologize for that. Jonathan Armstead, as a black American, caller is right. I've long thought Israel has used some of our history of Jim Crow in their treatment of Palestinians. In his book on Blackwater, Jeremy Scahill discusses it. During Hurricane Katrina, he met some Israeli commandos from Instinctive Shooting International, ISI, who were patrolling New Orleans, keeping out looters. They told Jeremy that the only difference they saw, he said, they tapped on their automatic weapons and said, you know, over in our country, when the Palestinians see this, they're not so afraid because they're used to it. But you people, you see it and you're very afraid. It's weird to see these aspects of tyranny always referencing one another. Lydia Rose, every time I hear Trump talk about heroics of service members, I feel sick. A draft dodger thinks thousands of vets are dishonorable just for existing. It's disgusting. 2 more.
Suckers.
Risa. Oh, I just read that one. Okay, Clearwater. For anybody who wants to have impact on the party, show up to local party meetings and attend your district conventions. It's easier for me in Wisconsin, sure, but I found it empowering. Other organizing and activism are also fantastic, as Sam said. And the final IM of the day. The amazing Grando. I am fascinated by the Peterson Jubilee video because every interaction he's barely containing his rage at talking to people. Meanwhile, Sam's Jubilee video had him being bombarded by some weapons-grade ignorance and still tried to stay positive. I'm a very positive person. Matt, Brian.
You keep your room clean.
That's right. My bed is made. Matt, Brian, Emma, great job today. Folks, see you tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and a lie bar.